Welcome to part 5 of renovating a vintage horizontal twin-cylinder model steam engine. I am outside the workshop, the engine is on top of a polythene container and I'm pouring the white spirit everywhere, then I'm using this old toothbrush to work the white spirit into every nook and cranny of the engine. This clip is of course running much faster than normal. To run it in real time would be very tedious and extremely boring. However tedious this job is though, it's vital to get rid of all the grease and grime from the engine before attempting to repaint it. I do tend to recycle cellulose thinners and turpentine substitute or white spirit, so I'm pouring the residue back into the bottle. Now that the white spirit is dirty and contains oil, it's no good for degreasing for painting, but it does have other applications. For soaking wood or charcoal in when I light a coal-fired steam boiler. I would not do this with cellulose thinners though, only white spirit. And while the white spirit is evaporating from the freshly degreased engine, it's time to go back into the workshop and continue the process of cleaning up the parts. I'm having another go at the crankshaft. I'll generally do this from time to time. I can't do it in one sitting though, I get bored very easily. So I dot about from job to job, and it keeps some sort of an interest going then. When I was a child, my father nicknamed me Grasshopper. Not because I used to sit on the lawn rubbing my back legs together or jumping about, but because I used to move from job to job without finishing the first job I'd start another one. I like a lot of things to keep me interested. One thing is for certain though, I will generally always finish every job. I take a lot of inspiration from others sometimes. I once read in a copy of Model Engineer from many years ago. The article was about a chap who built an award-winning model steam locomotive, but he did not have much in the way of workshop equipment, mainly hand tools. So as far as I remember, he got a friend with a lathe to machine him some wheel blanks. And once he'd marked out the position of the spokes and drilled many small holes to remove the pieces of metal, he then used a file to profile the shape of the spokes. And with that inspirational story still in my mind, I'm now tackling the worst of the connecting rods. This one is really badly pitted. You can see how much rust has come off it with a couple of passes with the sandpaper. In exactly the same way as in the previous episode, I'm now using the drum sander to remove as much of the corrosion as possible. It's still very corroded, so I'm using a larger drum sander to really cut through the metal. If you are doing this, be very careful with the drum sander because it will cut notches in the rod very easily and you do not want this. Time now to get some real power assistance. Once again, the hard wheel first, followed by the soft wheel on the polishing spindle. This process was described in detail in the previous episode. After you've cleaned up a part like this on a polishing spindle, any oil holes will be full of the abrasive. This needs to be removed, and I'm using a small drill for this. So don't forget, if you've been polishing parts like this, it is vital to make sure that all the oil ways are clear. If you put the engine back together, and instead of lubricating oil, the bearing gets what's left of the abrasive compound from the wheel, it's not going to like it much at all. The connecting rods are looking much better than they previously did. I'm still going to do some more work though, but it will be manual work with fine sandpaper. On an engine of this age, the stuffing gland material will be very hard and brittle, so it needs to be removed, and it's sometimes quite difficult to persuade it to come out of the stuffing gland. And what you have to be very careful not to do is damage the thread in the gland. So I'm using a combination of some surgical forceps and a small screwdriver, and I'm being very careful. Eventually all of the old packing material was removed. Even this took much longer than planned. Here's a speeded up version, you'll see what I mean. Thanks for watching and I hope you found it useful.